Hey folks, on tonight's show of Alberta Landlord Shoptalk, I've got to my, I got right, left is Chris Noble, my co-host, and down one of our community hosts and moderators that keep the channel good and going is Trish Fraser. We're going to talk about tenant objections, difficult conversations, and a little bit of confrontation, how to handle that, and we'll arm you guys with some common language to deal with common objections from tenants. As well, we've got a list of questions that come off the page as well tonight that we'll discuss. I think we'll provide some value back to you folks as landlords, and a little bit of news as well. I picked up some articles out of the news I thought would be good talking points as well. So we've got a great show lined up. Get comfortable, grab a drink, as Chris says, a favorite beverage, maybe with ice, maybe a hot cocoa, whatever you enjoy. We'll see you on in about 30 seconds. Oh, Chris, you're so much smoother at this. Good evening. My name is MacKenzie Wilson, one of your hosts alongside Chris Noble. Chris, how you doing tonight?
Very good. Yourself?
Very good. We have no technical issues tonight. And Trish has joined us as well. Trish, how you doing tonight?
And Trish has muted herself once again.
I did. I'm doing well. Thank you. My age is showing.
But you're on StreamYard hanging out in 2021. We're doing cool things. So we're going to have some fun tonight. Super excited for the show. I was sick last week. I thought I had COVID for sure. I had every symptom. Wasn't very good. I got tested, but it wasn't. So the common flu and cold still survives. And I'm pretty sure I got it from my son's school. So that was not so much fun last week. But I am back now. And I've got some fun things to talk about tonight. So Chris and Trish, I guess I will kick off the show. I want to talk about a little bit of news that we had a few weeks back now. And folks, yes, definitely say hi if you guys are watching. I see some tags. That's kind of cool. If you guys are watching from Facebook and you're you can see at the bottom, you can give yourself permission on StreamYard to show your name so we can actually know who we're talking to. Christine, welcome. Thanks for joining us. That's super cool. So I'm going to show you guys an article I picked up, and I thought it was really interesting. So let me do a little bit of this, and I'll share the screen. There we go. That looks good. So this is our Mighty Networks. This is kind of our private network, organizing network that we've got. It's kind of like it's basically a private Facebook is what it is, but we've got sections here. So anyways, I threw up a news article a few weeks back. I wanted to share and get your guys' opinion on this because it's something that hasn't happened before. So Strategic Group, they're a large landlord investor entity in Alberta. They do a lot of multifamily. Made it mandatory for new tenants to have to be vaccinated. So if you're going to rent from any of the strategic groups, they've got 52 properties across Canada, about 35 here in Alberta. And they've mandated vaccines for all tenants and staff at a certain date. I can't remember when the cutoff was, but they're the very first landlord to make the requirement to be vaccinated to go in the property. So interesting. I thought it was a really interesting take. I thought, hey, let's talk about this, pros or cons. And I'm just kind of curious what people think. So Chris, what do you think about this?
This whole mandating thing is going to get worse before it gets better. And what I mean by that, I mean the conflict part of it. It's going to be interesting, to say the least. I'm not going to get into a whole debate on our show as to whether you should or shouldn't, but I will say this, is that there's going to be some big conflicts to do with this whole mandating people to do things, and it's just wait and see.
Right. Yeah, it's different, right? And so I'm looking at, let's just look strictly from a business perspective. We all run businesses. These are our rental properties. 82% of Albertans are vaccinated in some form or fashion. So that's the vast majority of your demographic or market. So if you're the first one being this landlord taking the leap and saying, hey, you know what, we're mandating vaccines for our properties, you're definitely set yourself apart. So, I mean, it could be looked as a competitive advantage, but of course, you certainly will alienate yourself with some tenants who don't have vaccines or perhaps can't get vaccines. I'm sure there's an exception too if they have a health condition that you just show, proof of a doctor's note. But yeah.
Well, I hope those guys out there, I hope there are people out there that do that, landlords that do mandate people, or they won't let them into their properties, because those people are good tenants too, and I'll take them at that's my opinion. So I'm not going to tell somebody how they have to live medically in their properties. I'm going to supply them with a great place to live, and they all supply me with the monthly rents, and we're all going to live peacefully. So that's I hope people take that position, because it's just going to generate business for me. That's the way I look at it.
Absolutely. Trish, what's your take on this news story?
I'm deeply disturbed by the tone that anti-vaxxers are somehow secondary citizens. I'm triple vaccinated. I'm fine. But for my places, my personal places, they were all in Calgary. They were all suited before they made it easier to suite it. So all of my suites have separate air and everything. So I would never mandate it for my houses.
And that makes a lot of sense for you. Yeah, for sure. So I'm similar to you, Trish, that I have all suite properties, but I am under the grandfather rules where they share HVAC. So I can see a big multifamily, like a building, doing this, because also there's common areas, and that makes a lot of sense. I have at most 2 sets of renters at any given time. So that's only being exposure to one other person. Unless it was requested by a tenant, then I would do it. But until that point, I'm just going to keep the doors open, and whoever applies, as long as they meet my standards, continue on. So
yeah.
Anyways, it was interesting. That came up, when was that article? October 28th when I caught it. So anyways, just kind of first time I saw that. So yeah. I wanted to do something fun tonight as well. I'm going to take that part out. I'm going to do something new on our show called Member Spotlight. I haven't even told Trish or Chris this, so this is completely new. But it's the whole embody of this community. It's helping each other out and being better and making a better Alberta by being, more landlords stay in the game with more knowledge, and we provide better quality, affordable housing. And I really truly believe in that message. And I love it when members step up and help each other out, or just help out a tenant. So in this case, one of our members, Brenda Bastel, I don't know if she's even watching right now, but I made this thing for her. Hope she doesn't mind, but I'll put it back on the air here. She's our member spotlight. So a few weeks back, probably when I was not sick, she went through and she had a new tenant coming through, happened to be a cleaner as well. So she did a live video. She hopped up on her page and did a walkthrough, did some notes on some tips about doing her walkthrough. And then she showed up her new tenant, who also did cleaning in the, what was it? It's west of Edmonton. There's Spruce Grove area, I believe it was, or Stony Plain, and helping a tenant out that's just moved into the area who's got a cleaning company. So anyways, that's truly what this the community is about, is helping each other out, sharing the tips and tricks to make it easier. So Brenda, way to go. Super cool. I'm glad you did that. And congratulations. You're unofficially our first member spotlight. So I hope to do more of these to kind of showcase the cool people we've got in this community that make it better. So there you go.
If I ever do something good, don't you dare use flowers in my picture.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna have petals and everything, Chris. But you know, I probably
Brenda's
will.
daughter does flower arranging, so those were Brenda's flowers.
Nice.
Oh, cool, cool, cool. Okay, so should we hop into just dealing with it, objections in general, some tips and tricks and some strategies that we all might use? Do we guys want to do that first, or do you want to answer some questions off the page? What do you guys feel like doing? Folks that are watching, I know we've got about a dozen people clicked in already. If you guys are watching, there's something in particular you've had to deal with that's been challenging, or just like a tough question you find on the application, or you find doing your viewings or the phone calls, throw them into the group here. We're going to take those questions live, and I would love to know what you guys have dealt with that you found challenging, because we all have it for sure when we're trying to place vacancies. So okay, I'll kick it off then. So let's go. Probably the number one objection I see is either around pets in the house and credit scores. Typically, if you have a no pet rule, you'll find at times tenants will question you on that or try to persuade you to make exceptions to your no pet policy. So, Trish, how would you deal if someone is pushing you on a no pet policy? Even though I know you're very pro pets because you have two lovely dogs at home.
I am pro pet, but I'm only pro pet if the pet owner is responsible. So I weed them out by asking some very specific questions. And there's been lots of times that I've had to say, no, I'm sorry, that doesn't, this is how I run my business. And if you're not this, and I have an invisible business partner that I refer to all the time. And so my business partner, we just don't do this. It works for me,
Yeah, that's awesome. And you brought up one of the best strategies. I think it is divert the blame to a third party that's not present. Like I have a business partner, and whether you own the property outright or you own it outright with your significant other, or maybe you do have a business partner in the background, it doesn't matter. I was just going to suggest, kind of similar to what Trish does, you don't have to answer the objection right in the spot. You can say, you know what, that's a great question. I can take away, but I've got another person I work with, a business partner, and I have to get their approval as well. So that decision can't be made right now. Or this is our policy, and this is what we've got written down. Usually with the pets, I just say, I've had previous history. I used to allow it, and I've just been burnt too many times with certain damage and stuff. I simply don't allow it, and I'm sorry. So, and that's why it was right in the ad up front. I'm very polite about it, but I'm still firm. And I think that's probably the important thing is you don't want to come not weak, but be a pushover, I guess, because they're going to try to push that more and say, well, you know what, you sure? I'm a great pet owner. I'm very responsible. My dog gets 5 walks a day, always outside, doesn't go to the bathroom inside the house. And, it's always their opinion against yours. And well, the thing is, yours is not opinion. You're dictating policy on your rental property. So.
And I think that's the point too. I mean, we all have to have policies. This is a business for us, providing rental housing for other people. And if that's our policy, that's our policy. It's really not up for debate.
Yeah.
And I have said that to people before too, because I don't take pets unless they're spayed or neutered. And and I've had people argue with me, and it's like, no, that's my policy. That's it.
Yeah, and you can kind of think if they're trying to press upon you on the viewing or perhaps a first phone call, and they're already arguing with you about your policies and they're not trying to work with you, what does that foreshadow the difficulty that you might have trying to work with them as a tenant if you need to get trades in, perhaps do more important work than answer a few screening calls? So, Trish, you mentioned that you do a few different questions. I know we've talked about this before, but I think they're really good points. They're the best questions I've seen on the screening side for bringing tenants in. What do you do with tenants with pets to ensure you get a responsible pet owner? How do you qualify that?
Well, first of all, I tell them that I am a dog lover. I've got 2 dogs right now. We've got 3 dogs. And the policy is your pet has to be spayed or neutered, and you have to prove that. They have to be vet checked within the last year. That shows me that you are responsible in taking them to the vet regularly. They have to provide their last bill. And they also have to prove that they are registered with this. I live in Calgary, so they have to be registered within the city of Calgary, and cats too. And if they're not registered, not spayed or neutered, they're out.
Great tips. Awesome. So 3 pieces of information: a city pet license, if you're within the city, proof of spayed or neutered, and then a recent vet bill that's dated in the last 12 months, showing that they take their pet to the vet on a regular basis. Yeah, that's such a simple way. It cuts a lot of the BS. It's absolute. It's very black and white. And that, how's that worked for you, Trish, when you've been employing that strategy?
Well, we all learn the hard way. I learned because I had a bull mastiff that attacked somebody outside of the house. He got out of the yard. He wasn't registered with the city and everything. And they wanted me to pay for it because the gate didn't latch properly or whatever. But yeah, you learn the hard way.
Yeah.
So, if that person wasn't a responsible pet owner, and if I'd had these questions, they would have been. So generally speaking, well, I get 2 responses to that. I get people who just think it's absolutely ridiculous, and who do I think I am?
Mm-hmm.
And then I get people who are so appreciative that I've taken this initiative to ensure that they are really good. I also insist on seeing the dog in particular, and I watch how they walk the dog. If the dog is leading them for a walk, they're out. If they're walking with the dog, that's different. So I'll often do a walk around the block with them to see how they handle their dog.
Or just like have them at the viewing, so you get to see how they are, the manners. You get to interview the dog, because I don't know a pet or a dog that has a poker face, so you get the true colors of an animal, right? They are who they are. So if they're well mannered around on the viewing and they stay in the backyard, I've done that too. I haven't done the walking around the block, but I've had them come to the viewing with the dog, and especially good because my current tent in the basement, because I was renting out the upstairs, he had a dog. He has a really, really relaxed Labrador. It's a golden retriever, no, Labrador, and super calm. They met each other. The dogs actually did very well with each other. They were calm, and it was good. I mean, at the same time, someone comes over and those dogs are at each other. Can you imagine trying to have 2 dogs share a backyard that don't get along? That just wouldn't work. You'd be dealing with a vacancy pretty quickly.
I also split my backyards. So the downstairs tenant has half a yard and the upstairs tenant has half a yard with a fence in between. So the dogs don't ever meet.
Oh, interesting. I definitely do know
because I had tenants fighting in the backyard. So it was like, nope, no more.
See, we all learn from experience. Absolutely. Okay.
It's our
Very
mistakes.
Good. Chris, how do you deal with the whole pet thing too, if you decide to allow pets, or do you not even allow pets?
No, I allow pets, charge $25 a head, and I put a clause in mine. Pets are allowed, and I reserve the right to refuse it. I don't give a reason on paper, so to speak, as to why it's refused. I'll look at the dog and I ask them to bring the dog if they're coming in to view the place. And,
okay.
And sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. But if the dog's orangutan, or it's a problem, or it's 4 feet high at the shoulder, they probably aren't going to be in. If it's a little lap dog, I'm probably a little more lenient that way. But some questions about walking and how long the dog will be home alone and stuff like that all plays a part in it. If they go all day, oh yeah, all the dog's good all day without us, and I go, no, not happening.
No.
So
we just saw pictures on the group that a dog chewed a handle off a door. It broke its teeth, which wasn't good. It was anxiety, but it's just those are good points.
One renter that I have come in, just going to bring her in now to. Just going to be signing up some papers. She informed me that her dog goes to work with her, so I'm okay with that. But she works at a horse barn or whatever she does. I haven't got it all on paper yet to give her the final yes, I'm taking you. But the fact that the dog goes to work with her every day, I'm good with that. So
and that's a good. And you found out that information by having detailed questions and following up. Okay, like how do you look after your dog at work? So.
And it's a 6-year-old small English bulldog. So I actually kind of giggled and I said, 6 years old, they're getting pretty old, and I know they're not very long-legged if I got the right picture in my head. And I said, can your dog do these stairs to get up to the living area?
Yeah.
So more of I didn't want to have to put kind of make a little bit of fun of this, but didn't want to have to put a handicap ramp in for the dog, So.
Yeah. And Christine throws a great comment here. She says, always meet the dog. So important. Just like seeing if the kids behave or run around. Now, I'm a parent, and I have good days and bad days with my kids. So that one might be a tough one. And you know what, now that I am living where I am, I know that. So I'm a little more, not lenient, but I would say I probably could pick up on how people manage their kids or parent, whether I would probably agree or disagree on how they do that. And that might dictate something. But if I was myself 6 or 7 years ago, I'd have no clue. And a screaming kid would probably be a turnoff just because I didn't know any better. So food for thought on that one. But
I'd rather have dogs than kids any day.
yeah, and you know what? Especially if they're looked after, and as you've vet them, they're probably a little bit less that picky than the kids. Because my kids have and currently are destroying my walls, so I won't fix anything in my property until they a little bit bigger. They're also 5 and 2, so we're in the thick of it. But this lovely person, Chris, maybe you can grab me a name here. I love this forum. Thank you all so much. Questions on snakes. I won't allow them. Maybe mostly because I don't like them and worry about them escaping and hurting a child or something. But on the other hand, maybe there's no mess or damages. Any opinions? So this is a good question. I have a no exotic pet policy. Dogs and cat. I don't even like cats, but I have a cat in one of my properties because I don't know why I do, but I've allowed it to tenants. This might bite me in the butt because I've already had to replace damages once before, and if this happens again, I definitely won't be allowing cats again in the future. But yeah, they're anything exotic. I have to be comfortable walking in a property, and I don't like getting surprised by bugs or insects. Like I don't mind what all that stuff as long as I know where it is. But if I turn around a corner and open up a door or a blind and something falls out that's 12 inches or 24 inches long, that's a reptile, I'm not going to be happy. So I don't want to deal with it. So that's how I go. And I think aquariums too, if they're small, like a goldfish, all day long, have fun with that. But if someone's bringing in a 30-gallon aquarium, or I don't know what size they come in, they're really big, but that thing gave way, that's a lot of water damage. So I mean, that's always food for thought too. Do you guys allow exotic pets, or do you guys keep it pretty plain Jane? No?
Nope. I'm not going in there if there's a snake or some kind of reptile. So no.
Yeah.
And also the crickets and stuff, the things that you feed them. I mean,
that's something else to look after.
Well, they're not going to get them all. They tend to just multiply and stay there, right? And so the next people have to listen to these crickets. It's like, no.
Yeah, fair. And I wanted to highlight something important you said too, Chris, about being comfortable going to your property. You don't allow big dogs in your property, and I've gone both ways. I have to meet the dog, and if it really depends on his temperament, how they respond. I've been around really big, lovable puppies, and I've been around other dogs that are super intimidating. A couple pit bulls where the way the owner handled them made me I questioned my ability to go on the property and be safe without, just that as well as something else to take in consideration, which kind of falls in the line of this question about the snakes. So, yeah, okay. So the next
Mac,
objection.
I can't give you the name of anybody. The last question, love the forum, was Amanda Thompson, but for some reason, even if people are commenting, I can't. It doesn't come up on the Facebook. I can't give you the names of anybody that's on there, so I don't know why it's not rolling through the comments, matching what we have on our end of the computer. So.
Okay, all good. I'll see if I can pull up as we go here, but no problem. Let's jump into the next common objection, credit scores. So I guess first question, do you guys both take credit scores as part of your screening process? Do you guys use single key or neighborly?
Single key for me.
Okay, yeah,
but,
single key. Yeah.
I think the next time I might try the Landlord Credit Bureau one and just see how that compares.
Yeah, I'd be interested too. They just came out with their own credit score. I looked at the sample and it looks to strictly only be just the Equifax portion, none of the other information that single key includes. And the one thing I like that single key and Neighborly both do well is you can make a requirement that they have to upload a photocopy of an ID, so like a driver's license or a passport, which is so important to have on file, because then you know whoever is applying your property is in fact they are who they say they are. I kind of, when I took over my first rental property, I bought with tenants in place, and I did a good screen process, and I never had actual identification with the tenants upstairs. They're no longer there, so I now have all that. But that was a huge blind spot I had in liability for a while. I mean, I assumed they were who they were because their e-transfers did say their name, but you can also actually change the name on an e-transfer. So if you get an e-transfer at the bank or when you register it, you can want your name to be displayed as so-and-so. You can change all that. So yeah, that's a huge thing. That's one thing I like about the paperwork. It just makes it easier collecting some of that. I mean, I still don't mind sitting down and asking a tenant when they say they're doing their sign the application, or maybe on the view, and if they're doing their application there, is I'll ask to take a picture of their ID just to verify they are, again, who they are. So Chris, how do you, like, you know, I love asking you this question, and because you're ex law enforcement, this is really up your area of comfort. I know you probably have a sixth and a seventh sense of detecting BS that I don't have. So do you bother with the credit checks? Like, what's your approach on that?
Well, I'm a little more fortunate being in a smaller community. Some of the people that have come to me, I just look at the Facebooks, and if I have a common friend or someone I kind of know to be one of the friends, I'm on the phone or sending messages right away. And yeah, I've weeded out some people quite quickly based on that. I actually checked with my son. I said, one of your friends is friends that was a friend of mine. This is the great thing about Facebook, is his friend and friends of friends of mine and friends of friends. You know, anyway, on and on we go.
Yeah.
I said to him, I said, do you know any? He says, let me check. And he gets back to me a couple of days later. Dad, I got stuff for you here.
Oh.
So, you know, that's my small community background checks. You get into the larger centers, though, I think I would tend to defer to some of your experiences there with you guys, because I think your single keys and neighborlies and credit bureaus, they're important checks to have, as well as contacting employers, as well as even considering co-signers for a rental. Mm-hmm. And in the case here where I'm taking on someone here now, they're self-employed, young person. I'm thinking that a co-signer might be an option. I'll give them a year on their own. If they're good, then I could look at removing the co-signer after that. So you have to look at it as you know, the whole process. It should be like applying for a job or applying for a loan. We are lending on our place, you know, and they are taking on a pretty big responsibility. So that's important. The one girl that I had in here earlier this week, she couldn't take her eyes off her phone and was flipping through her phone the whole time we're talking. And she said, "Oh, don't mind me. I have to do my work. I'm doing work while I'm here." And I'm thinking to myself, you know what? You're here a whole 15 minutes. There's nothing that important that you're doing that you can leave, come to look at a house that you're going to live up, and not be able to talk to me. It doesn't walk with me. So pretty much out the door. Yeah, out the door, and I just went right onto the Facebook ad that I put up, and I just blocked her so I didn't have to hear from her again. But I'm totally unimpressed. And you know what? It's like, if you can't give me the courtesy, I'm not giving you the courtesy of why did I delete you? Like, you can figure it out.
Yeah, so. It's certainly a two-way street for sure, right? So
I'll tell you a little trick that I do too is when I put my stuff on the Facebook ads, the communities rental ads, is when I have people that I don't want, I have seen the same people as my places come up over and over and over again applying. So now that I know I don't want certain people, I actually go in and block them. So they never see my ad ever again unless they bring up a new profile. And then I don't have to worry about, is this still available? Is this still available? Is this still available? That drives me nuts too. I'm doing a little bit of a vent here today, aren't I? So,
You're just
But,
opinionated, Chris, which is probably makes
yeah,
you why you're
but
you're a good leader in the group.
Yeah.
well, I'll tell you, sometimes you have to put your foot down and say, okay, enough's enough. And I do make mistakes, and I did make a mistake on my last renter by not being a little more intolerant of some of the things. And
Mhm.
you know what? Lesson learned. I paid for it this last 3 weeks doing my renovations and stuff. But in the end, my renovation has made my place more saleable, more preferred. And as a
Yeah,
result of that, I went from 1,100 a month to 1,480 a month. So because I did my upgrade,
brilliant.
so
Yeah,
$380 a month, I put a little extra in. Will I pick that up? Yeah, I've been down 2 months, but an extra 380 a month. Do the math on that. I should have recovered in what 5 months. So there you go. So
yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's a huge uplift on rent there. So
yeah. Well, the
shows a
place
little.
was older. That's that one the other night. Those of you who are still watching, we did that. We showed you the front before and after,
Yeah.
and then what was going on the inside. So I'll put those before and afters of the inside. And again, it's tough for some people if you don't have the time that I do, maybe to do it. But sometimes sweat equity can bring you that extra money, and what I've saved not having a contractor. So, but get that got us a little off topic. But back to screening people out and dealing with objections. Use that block key on your Facebook and keep your work down to a minimum if you can.
I have a little pro tip that I have on my, like I've written my own application form, and I put on there the emergency contact, because when people are trying to get your place, they're trying to impress you, and they're going to be more forthcoming with it. The other
Mhm.
thing is when they sign the lease, it's also on there, and they don't always put the same person. So then I've got two references if I need to go after them.
Oh, okay. So hold on. So you've embedded the emergency contact into your lease agreement, and it's also on your application.
Yeah.
So I love this, and this is part of my. So I have a whole screen strategy, and I actually ask repeatedly the same questions from the initial inquiry, whether it's a phone call, text message, or email, to perhaps when I follow up on a phone call, which is the second point of contact, to the third point where if I do the in-person viewing, I try to ask all those same questions because if you don't get consistent answers, you get really interesting stories, and you're like, okay, I better ask more about this. Or like in your case, you've got double the information to follow up if a tenant might start to go MIA or to follow up on late rent, right? So I've heard of a lot of landlords talk about it on the Facebook group where Johnny's not paid rent on time, and he's first year at the state or whatever, or he's mom's co-signed with them, or mom's on the emergency contact, and the landlords called the mom and said, "Hey, your son Johnny, when's he going to pay rent? He's a week behind. We're into the first week of January, and he hasn't paid his rent yet." Next day, the rent's been paid. It really pays to have that contact, especially with a parent. If you're, just food for thought. So, yeah, great idea on two places for emergency contact and the vet checks registration. Adding both of my updates. Thank you. And I got my Facebook running, and that is, I believe, that's Melanie. So that's Melanie. Right on, Melanie. Thanks for the comment there. Trish, that's all you. High five. That's super cool. I learned the vet trick from Trish last year. She helped me out, and actually we had her on the show in the summer. And when she mentioned that, I was like, that is a golden tip. Absolutely. Awesome information. Well, let's help some folks out. I did grab some questions off the group tonight and tag some people. No preparation for Trish and Chris on this, so on the spot questions I'm going to throw at you guys here. So let's see if we do this. Open up. Well, let's kind of continue the theme. You already started talking about this, Trish, which is fine, but applications. So Erin said she's, hi Erin, I'm a new landlord with a basement suite in my house. I'm currently looking for a tent, and to be honest, I'm a little clueless. I don't want to screw up. I've signed up for single key, and I noticed they have a tent application. Does anyone else use this feature? Do you customize it, or do you just use the default one? And I want to pre-screen. So let's just talk about some key things to ask on an application. So Chris, I'll throw it back to you. First time contact with someone inquiring on your rental property, what questions do you ask them?
I have that right here. My pre-screening questions. Let me bring that up here. I send this right back to them as soon as they send me, "Hey, is this still available?" Which again drives me absolutely bananas.
Yeah.
And I hit yes, and I fire the questions back right away. Please answer the following questions. Number of people, ages, employment status, income, time at the current employment, length of time at your current residence, reason for leaving your current residence, any pets, kind, size, photos preferred. If they don't answer that within 24 hours, I block and delete, and because they're not worth my time or my effort, because I can see that they've read it and it only takes a second or two to answer those questions. And if they haven't within 24 hours, block, delete, and I don't have to deal with them next time. If I have to relist that place, this is funny. If I relist that place, people are sometimes just mess with you and they say, "Is this available? Is this available?" It's like they have fun. They have nothing better to do. So if I block and delete them, I don't have to deal with that stuff. So those are my pre-screening. And this, there's a big, depending on how they answer it or if they don't answer it, then I just I go from there. Then I have a longer application that I'll give them if I decide that we want to meet, and that I invite them in, and then I say, here's a longer application. I give that to them, and it's a little more detailed for some information, and we go from there. So.
Very cool. Very cool. Trish, anything? What do you like to ask for in that first kind of contact?
Well, I have to thank you, Mackenzie, because I verbatim use your questions that you had on that very first video, I think you did, for finding great tenants. So I'm in a different room right now than my office, so I don't have it with me here, but I laminated copies. I have them in my purse, in my car, everywhere. And
awesome.
So on to you, Mackenzie, you tell us.
Okay. All right, let's do it then. So I walked away and came back while Chris was doing his bit. I've got these plastic business cards. I have to, the questions are a little bit, I've changed them a bit, but they're generally still the same ones, because I always find I get a phone call when I'm, of course, not at a computer, not somewhere with a pen and paper. And I always, especially when I first started off, I'd only get, I'd do 1 or 2 viewings a year, different times. So it'd be 2 or 3 months or maybe 6 months or longer before I'd ask the questions, and I'd forget. And all of a sudden I've been add up and I started getting the phone calls, and I wanted to be consistent in asking my questions. So like you said, Trish, I've got these plastic cards with my questions on. They fit in my wallet, and I have them stored about everywhere. So what I do is I'll take the questions, I'll ask them on the phone. If I'm fortunate enough to have my wife beside me, she'll take notes for me on the call if it's over the hands-free. Or if it's just myself, I'll ask all the questions, and as soon as I get off the phone call, I spin up a recording and I just verbal diarrhea. I get all of the notes out of my head. The person's name's this, they've got a pet. He works as a mechanic. She is a nurse. They're a couple, blah, blah, blah. Anything I can remember from the phone call, I write it down, because I'm going to ask those questions again and to see if the story is consistent or if it changes over the course of looking at my property. So that's one way to do it. Like you said, Chris, it's so important to be able to respond super quickly. So I use Google Keep. It's on my phone. It's on my computer. Emails and text messages, I can go a Control-A, Control-C, copy and paste, and instantly reply to anyone. And especially when you get the tire kickers to say, hey, is this property available? So throw them my 20 questions, and then here we go. So I actually have a form now. Some people use it, some people don't. So I'm kind of playing with that right now. I usually get, when are you going to move in? I got to make sure the logistics even work for them. How long do they want to rent for? How many people will be living in the suite? Because that's critically important. You'll get families of 6 or 7 applying for a 2-bedroom. Doesn't make a lot of sense. I ask for the current address, because when I do the background checks, I want to make sure their current address is on their application or shows up in their credit check report. So I do a lot of cross-referencing of information, because we have so much available information and resources now. What we want to do is build a story of facts that can be validated about the person. And sometimes the facts aren't even really important to renting the property, but I just want to know I'm getting the truth from the person. So I want to validate as many truthful points as possible. And the more points I confirm, the more confidence I have that I've got someone telling me the truth, and they would be a good fit. So have you given your landlord proper notice? This is huge. If they haven't told their current landlord they're moving out, and they're month to month and they're shopping around right now, or just that's a good telltale sign that they might treat you the same way. What's your reason for moving? It's always good to know kind of what's going on. If you have any pets, what type and how many? 2 key pet parts to get. I've added the word vape into my smoking question because some people consider that different. So devil's in the details. And if you're not working, what other forms of income do you have? And probably what I do when I get on the phone call, I always say, hey, you know what? I appreciate your interest in my rental. I like to know who's renting my properties. I work really hard to put good tenants beside each other as all my properties are suited. How about you start out and tell me a little about yourself and what you need? And then I just don't say anything for 5 seconds, 10 seconds. And that pause is uncomfortable. But if you get okay or comfortable doing it, you'll find other people on the other side of the phone will just keep talking and talking to fill the air. And they'll typically divulge more information and information that you couldn't legally ask for. So if they share, it's fair game, and they typically share a lot of information. So
Mackenzie, you bring up a great interview strategy, and that goes back to my previous career. The long, awkward pause, that is classic, great interviewing strategies, whether you're interviewing your kid because they did something wrong and you wait. If the longer you can wait and not have to worry about filling in the blanks, the better results you're going to have with the answer. So
it's amazing.
I suck at that. I try, but I'm maybe 2 seconds in before I'm filling the silence.
Yeah, don't do that. So
I know.
Don't do that.
You may think that, holy, this is like, must be about 30 seconds. No, it's probably only been about 7 seconds, and you've taken 7 and multiplied it by 4. So in your head. So do nothing. And a classic example of someone trying to think of an answer and be deceptive is when they say, what? Pardon? Because they're trying to think of an answer to give you. When someone says what, don't answer, don't repeat. Wait and see and do the awkward silence. And if they come back at you a second time, sorry, I didn't hear what you said. Okay, then it may be legit. But if they keep going what or pardon, and even if you're face to face, a lot of times they're trying to be deceptive in how they are going to answer that question. So you may not think you are. You're making yourself uncomfortable. Don't. You're in charge. So just sit back and ask the question and wait. And if they're not answering or they're looking down at the floor, what's the classic? Down and to the right? They're lying down and to the left. Well,
something like that. Yeah. What part of the brain are they trying to access? Yeah.
That's right.
That's a great tip, Chris.
Yeah. So the game is with yourself, not to fill the void. Do not.
It's tough. It is really tough. I even once in a while I'll still do it. I'll still like I know I've done this because I like the person, so I want to help them out, and you don't want to do that. Don't put words in someone else's mouth. You want to hear the story from them, and it's that ability to bite the tongue is it's a hard skill, but to learn, but it takes a little bit of practice. But it like you said, Chris, it pays such great dividends, and I cannot say enough about.
I'll see if I can frame some. See if I can frame something up. What?
Yeah. I'm liking this conversation coming up. I got to laugh in here. I'm an assistant principal. I use the awkward silence all the time. Also, when they start, I'm going to tell you the whole truth. Not a good sign. That is, I can totally relate that. I can totally relate that.
I wish we could tell who that was.
Let me go back. I'll hop on the Facebook page here. But man, this show is full of like just great pro tips.
Oh, that's Melanie.
That's Melanie. Yeah, that's Melanie. Right on, Melanie. We love that. Assistant principal. So Melanie and Chris, you guys got the hard skills. You guys are in front of people all day long, especially Chris. You have to be a bit of a detective and get the real story. And Melanie, you're dealing with lots of kids who have creativity at their disposal.
So for those of you that are kind of struggling, maybe, or you're going, what are these guys talking about? Let me just frame something up for you here. So you have someone come in and you say, and the guy says, "Oh, what do you do for a living?" And he goes, "Oh, well, I've had experience with, a little bit of construction." "Oh, so you must like do framing and stuff, and you help build houses?" "Oh, yeah, I build houses." And he said, "Oh, where are you building a house, like down in Red Deer or something?" "Oh, yeah, no, I'm working with a guy down in Red Deer." You've just given them all the answers. So the question is, what do you do for a living? I work for. You see. They should say, what do you do when you say, what do you do for a living? Say, oh, well, I'm in construction and I work for ABC company, and we're in the process of building some houses right now down in such and such an area in Red Deer, and we got 2 houses on the go. And what I do is I start with this portion of it, and then after we're done that, then I go to the second house and I redo that. You know, that's the articulation you're looking for. If you said, oh, are you doing framing? Are you doing finishing work? Are you a drywaller? Oh yeah, I'm a drywaller. Oh, okay. And so you do a lot of mudding, and and you do stucco work. Oh yeah, and we do stucco work on the days off. So you're feeding him the answers for his story.
And he hasn't told you anything off the top of his head. Like, he hasn't given you any job description whatsoever. You've just said, yeah, I do that. Yeah, I do that. Yeah. He's feeding off the language that you've given him, Chris.
Exactly. And so the question is, what do you do for a living? Shut up. Don't say anymore. They got to give you the answer.
Yeah. You got 2 years in one mouth. You listen to that ratio, you'll do okay. So,
okay. I've just got a question.
Try that with the kids.
Yeah.
Playing the devil's advocate, when I say, can you tell me a little bit about yourself? And they say, well, what is it you want to know?
Okay.
I just say, well, and I'll respond back. You know what? I like that great fits with my rental units, Trish. And I just want to know what you do so I can make sure this is the right rental for you. I want to ensure, you're a great fit. So I just need a little information about what you do, what you're looking for, how long, all that kind of stuff. Just help me fill in the picture, and I'll ask questions along the way if there's any questions I have.
And of course, my version of that would be, when they say, what is it you'd like to know? I say, well, tell me why I should take you over the guy I'm going to have here in another 20 minutes to review the place.
Yeah.
Okay. Like, I'm sorry, I'm a little more direct than some, and that's probably because of my background. But tell me why I want you over the next guy. Isn't that an employer question? Why would we hire you over the other applicant?
It 100% is. Yeah.
You better have a great answer for that because I'm a good guy. Well, tell me why you're a good guy.
Yeah. What makes you different? Yeah, totally. Yeah. I like that devil's close. I like that question, Trish. If you got more, like, they kind of see we got 2 different approaches, so that's cool. Yeah. Okay. Well, we've certainly talked about the application. I'm just looking down. I also bring up that I do credit checks. I talk about that a lot, and I had one fellow talk about his convictions in crime. So I was like, okay, and he told me right on the phone. So again, a little bit of an awkward pause and say, hey. Just so you know, I do background and credit checks as part of my due diligence. No, I don't need perfect scores, but it is part of my process. Is there anything I should know right now? And then I wait. And then that's where I got some information too. So, yeah. Last thing I do, a part of this application screening process, and this is my favorite pro tip, since we're giving away all the gems in the show. I know we've talked about this before, is I do a bit of a psychology, a little bit of a behavioral test is what I'll call it. And so I'll say, yeah, you know what? Thanks, Jane and John. You guys sounds like a great fit. Let's get you guys booked in for viewing. We'll set up the time. And then my last piece of instruction before I get off the phone, I said, okay, you guys are confirmed for Tuesday at 7 p.m. The last step is to help avoid no shows and save everyone's time. I need you to text this number, the number you've called me on, an hour and a half before. If I don't receive that text, I don't show up, as it helps save time. Just so you know, do you understand? If I don't get the text, I won't show up. They go, okay, yeah, no problem. And I no longer drive to no-shows for viewings, and I love it. I do that all the time, and it works really good. And it shows the person's able to follow some basic instructions, and they can use a calendar or make some sort of reminder that they have to remember to call you. If they're able to do those 2 functions, typically I'm comfortable with them, and that I can use them, or I can work with them in the future when I'm trying to book trades. If they can't handle that challenge, probably not the tenant for me. Or if I've had happen as well is they forget the call. They show up at 7 o'clock, and I get a phone call saying, hey, I'm at the property. I'm like, well, I didn't get a text from you, so I'm not there. And then I'll go and rebook them again. Same exact process. Okay, we'll meet now on Thursday at 7 o'clock. Same thing. You got to text me in an hour and a half. And I've had some tenants follow through and do that, and they've turned out to be fine. They just, they had a brain fart that day. So I don't make it like an absolute. They have to get it right the first time. But I don't waste my time anymore. I don't go out and I can spend the night with my kids doing whatever. I Unless I know I've got a confirmed appointment, I'm not driving across the city. So, yeah. Okay, let's get some more questions here. Awesome. I love that kind of stuff.
While you're looking stuff up, I want to throw some stuff up because we're almost out of time here. We only got about 9 minutes to go.
Yeah.
One of the things I want to throw up is we had some information put up on the page this week regarding someone made a post somewhere about going to help a brother move, and then all the emojis that went up were drinking, fire. Fire. It could mean a fire pit, partying, and just the general presentation of the post caused the landlord on this page to bring it to everyone's attention. Hey, if this is your place, you might want a heads up here. Not sure basically what it all means, but worst case scenario, your house is going to get wrecked. Best case scenario is you got a great renter. So somewhere in between, something was going to happen. As a result of that, I know Rob got on there and made a few comments, Rob Bonin, and I appreciate him for what he brought up there, because he made a connection back to the people posting. It went further back, and people don't know this behind the scenes, is that the person that posted about the people, those people actually caused our page quite a bit of ruckus here about a year and a half ago, where we had to do a lot of digging to figure out who was causing some difficulties for another one of our landlords. And the connections were all made by Rob back on there. And my analogy is, when the apple falls off the branch, the next one that falls usually doesn't fall too far from the other one. So I appreciate that going up. I appreciate the heads up. We support that. It is just information that's being put up. And if it was your property that somebody was moving into this weekend and it tweaked with you, and you go, wow, this looks familiar, I better take a look at it, and somebody is moving this weekend, then at least you had a heads up and good on you. But what happened on the post, just to shorten this up, is someone started victim shaming what was going on, and that's not tolerable. As a result of that, that person found themselves on a timeout for the next 30 days. And if it continues or there's a problem, they'll find themselves no longer a part of the group, because we're business people here, and we're sharing information and trying to make a better business package for all of us by looking after each one of us. So there's the rest of the story behind the scenes as to what that was about, for those of you who may be wondering.
I did not know this. Thank you, Chris.
I didn't either.
Yeah. Well, that's because we haven't had our meeting yet. Otherwise, it would have came out. But,
This is true. We work together, and it definitely is a volunteer effort. So
yeah, I'm that guy behind the scenes. These guys do all the technical stuff, and then I'm the other guy on the page who just kind of takes it bull by the horn and deals with it. So I appreciate it. I appreciate all you great people on our page that participate and look after each other. You warm my heart some days, most days, when you're out there helping each other out. And thank you very much to all you that participate positively. Oh yeah, my comment on there was, if you can't form your sentences properly to show support for somebody, then two things: either get off the page or don't write anything. So those are the two simple approaches to that. So over to you, Mac.
All right, well, let's target some more questions here. I just might wrap up. I have two more after this. We'll see how fast we do this. Electric cars. I've never come across this yet. This is more of a discussion point than a question, really. Tammy just brought the point that she had a tenant who had an electric car plugging in her house. I wonder how much it affects utilities and stuff. I read through the chat, and Doug Williams, he's one of our experienced members. He's up in GP there. He brought some good points, and it sounded like it wasn't a huge overall cost, something pretty nominal. Electric car might impact it somewhere between $20 and $40 a month. Maybe the Tesla models that are a little more high end that are a lot more than that, but maybe $150 a month in additional utilities, or maybe $100 less than that. But I've never met a tenant that has a Tesla, so it has not been a problem for me. But electric cars, I have never even thought about putting something in my a clause or anything around my lease in this. What's your guys' take on this? Like, this is an interesting conversation, because I've just never crossed this yet in my experience.
Yeah. I was so surprised by the question and the whole thing that I was just gobsmacked. I didn't respond at all.
I was intrigued. I just kind of listened. Yeah, I read the whole comments and said, good points.
Yeah.
I was all over this one. I didn't respond, but right away I go, absolutely. How come I didn't think of this? You don't, because it's not brought up to you. So, Mac, you just answered the rest of the question I was looking for, anywhere from 30 to 40 bucks a month. So you know what? It's written. It will be the dollar figures going in now that I've made the amendment to my lease. The dollar figure going. If you own an electric vehicle, it's a
$40 flat, $50 a flat fee to have it plugged in.
Absolutely, and that's an all included, of course. If I'm paying the utilities, then it's a flat $50 a month to have the car there to plug it in. And
perfect, problem solved.
And then the B portion of that, if you have a guest who requires their car being plugged in, and it's found or noted, that there'll be a $25 charge for it each day.
You're talking like an engine block in the winter, Chris?
Nope, I'm talking like an EV car. So
like a guest comes over to the property.
Yeah, and if you know what, you just can't start plugging guest vehicles in either, right? But these all take special hookups too. You have to have special things designed. Isn't there not a special plug for this?
Yeah, and so there's both. So what kind of came up in the conversation I thought was very interesting was some of the more basic electric cars have the ability to plug in off a household outlet, but because they plug into a household outlet, there's a bit of a restriction on how much power it can draw. And overnight, that comes back to the point they're not going to do much more than 20 to 30 bucks a month on your bill. Like that's assuming they're driving decently and plugging in every day, right? So it sounds like there's not really a big impact. But you're right. You need special plugins for the Teslas and these other more fancier cars. So
if anybody's watching and you know anything, please put in the comments, because we'd love to hear it. This is a great topic that comes up, and I will, and this is going into my lease.
Yeah, down. I learned something new. This was all like, this the thought never even crossed my mind. So, okay, let me find another question for you fine folks. I'll kick that off. We got a couple more minutes left here, so we'll find another one. Why not?
I'd also like to know too, if for plugging in block heaters, do any of you guys, anybody out there, require timers on them? Do you say? Because in reality, you don't need to run a block heater all night. If you leave it 7 in the morning, if it comes on 2 hours before, that's generally enough to warm your car up to what you need. That's my understanding anyway. So do any of you out there have any restrictions on block heaters? So
no, but I should. I
have garages for all of our.
No, I got a tenant that has an extension cord going out into the backyard where we've got parking spots. So, and I'm pretty sure it's plugged in 24/7. Actually, I'm positive it is. So I wonder, you know what I'm going to do for a Christmas gift for my tenants this year? I'm going to buy them a plug-in timer for the block heater. Boom. Win-win for everybody. If they even choose to use it, they probably won't. But so maybe I'll have to think about that one. That's a good one. I don't. Do you, Chris?
No, I don't. But that's something, again, I got to look at because none of my places have garages. But I try to talk to my tenants about it. But, when they come home at 5 o'clock at night, leave it plugged in till 7 o'clock the next morning when they go to work. That's 14 hours of electricity being used on your block heater. It's not necessary.
Right.
So, again, I'd like to see some comments. Actually, we should just throw that question right up on the page.
We should. A block heater question. How do you guys deal with that? And you know what? It's probably only applicable like really 2 to 3 months of the year, right? The January, February's, maybe December's to mid-March, like it's the coldest time. But well, you know what? I'm speaking from Calgary, so I mean, I don't know. We're all across Alberta, so I mean, we get Chinooks, right? So we're kind of fortunate that way. I mean, if you go more to like the prairies, I know. We have our folks too on from Saskatchewan landlord community. They get those those 2 week -30 wind chills. That's like
2 weeks. Are you kidding? You don't get like 2 months of that out there?
Yeah, they get a lot. They don't get the Chinook breakups that we get. We're pretty fortunate that way. So,
you guys in Saskatchewan landlord group there, by all means, comment. We'd like to know what you do out there about your block heater situation as well. So.
I'll ask. That's a good question. Yeah. So, all right. So let's bring up this last one. We'll wrap up on this point. We kind of answered the other question too, as well. So Cindy writes, I've got 5 great families to choose for our rental place. How much time do you give everyone for them to sign the lease? Do you ask for the security deposit up front with the signed lease? Yes. we had the same tenants for the past 7 years. I'm a little bit rusty. So yeah, so they just left a long-term tenant, which is awesome. So congratulations, Cindy, on that. This comes down to managing timelines and expectations and getting a response in a decent time. I have some opinions on this, but you know what? Let's throw it to Trish. Maybe you want to take a run at this. How would you manage the situation?
I have an offer to lease, and somebody answered it very, very well on the landlord page, so I didn't bother putting in my 2 cents. But I collect the first month's rent. I have an offer to lease, and on that it says this is the first month's rent. It will not be returned to you if you change your mind at the last minute. And then when they take possession of the place, they have to pay the utilities and the damage deposit and the dog rent. No, they have to pay the dog rent in advance. But and then they have to provide insurance and all the dog documentation before I give them the keys.
So if someone gets through your screening process, gets a viewing, finishes the viewing, says, Trish, I love your house. What's the next steps? I'd like to rent from you. Like, that's where they go and sign a offer to lease, which is a little one pager saying they have to commit a financial amount to be considered.
Yeah. If I like them and everything is perfect, I'll send them a copy of the lease and the offer to lease and let them sit with that. And I've had it where there's been 2 really wonderful people applying at the same time, and sent it to both of them. And then I choose. Usually you can choose. It's like, oh yeah, I want this, you just have to choose the person that you want in. And there's always so many things. And once you decide it's that person, then they have to pay me right away. And until I have that first month's rent in my pocket, the ad stays up.
Absolutely. Chris, your take on this?
I ask for deposit to hold. If they want it, put your money down. That's that simple. And they say, okay, I'll e-transfer you. And if it's not e-transferred when they say it's going to be, and I just send them a note saying, didn't get your money yet. I'm giving you this much time. If you still want it, it's yours. Otherwise, this next person's getting it, and they're ready to put the deposit down. And usually they'll send the money. They go, oh, I forgot. Sorry. Yeah,
exactly. Give deadlines, right? I mean, I think in this scenario, it depends what time of the month you're in, right? If you've got some time, if you're 2 months away, for example, I find just on that note, and there's another one about timelines, another question I had picked up, but about asking questions too early, and this person's looking for renters in February or something, and they're advertising now, or in January, they're 2.5 months ahead. I think that's great. Do that. I find you get 2 waves of renters come in. The really early birds are organized people that like to have their stuff.
They're my faves.
Yes, they come in. I signed a lease. The gal I've got right now, the last tenant I just placed, she came into my Bonus property. I signed a lease the end of June. She moved and she viewed it mid-June. So it took us about 2 weeks to kind of wrap up the loose lines. She had a lease signed. I had everything dotted, money in the account for me transfers. End of June, before Canada Day. And she moved in August, after August long weekend. And so good. She's so good. Just so organized, on the ball, text, emails, instant respond. Like, she's just perfect. She's organized. So she's looking 2.5 months ahead. I find that happens first. If you get your parked on the market in time, you'll find those kind of folks that are really organized. And I love them. Like you said, Trish, they're so good. And then you get people, due to circumstance or just majority of people, will search that same month. There's still great people to be found, but you also get less desirable tenants, as we sometimes say, that will apply in the property and are not as organized. So depending on what time of the month is, you said a great point, Chris. You got to give them deadlines. If you've got 2 people and you're trying to figure out before committing to someone, so they got to make a decision pretty quickly, right? Especially if they got to move at the end of the month. People got to move quickly. So I mean, I try to give a couple days at a time. There's got to be touch points going on, following up, and having communication continuing. If you're not hearing from them, you can't be going on weeks without communication. So I usually ask them what their timeline is at the end of the viewing. So I say, okay, great, guys, thanks for checking. Do you guys got any questions? I, by the way, don't offer a lease. I make them ask for it, because if they ask for a lease, I know they're generally interested in my property. If I offer a lease, everyone takes it because we're takes it to be kind, but they may not be interested. So they ask for the lease, then I go, great, yeah, I'll send you a lease. We'll discuss that process. And I ask them, so what do you guys do? Am I the first property you've looked at? How do I compare? Okay, you've got 3 more viewings over the next 2 days. Okay, today's Monday. Let's touch base Wednesday. If I don't hear from you, or I'll follow up if I don't hear from you, and go from there. And then same thing, I'm probably doing my screening in about 2 days. I try to do a 48-hour turnaround. So
Cool.
Yeah, and my big warning is if you do have to, if you're the people are moving out on the 30th or the 31st, and you're looking at somebody on the 28th and they want to be in 2 days, that's a no for me.
mm-hmm.
Absolute no. And I've said this on the page lots of time. If they need me, I don't want them, because there's a reason they need me.
There's Airbnb, hotels, friends' couches. You don't have to take someone in 2 days. Never do that. No, rushing your screening process is the quickest way to get burnt, and a very not a very good experience being a landlord. You probably won't last long.
The pro tip from not suffering from that is having a vacancy allowance. Put 8% aside every month for a vacancy allowance, so you don't have to stress out when it's empty for a month, once a year, or for me it's like once every 3 years when it's empty a month. It's like, that's okay.
Yeah,
the money's in the bank.
Yeah, absolutely. That's planning that's budgeting your rentals up front. So 8% of your gross rent typically equals 1 month's rent. So good tip there, Trish. I love it. Well, we're over time. It's 9 after, or 7 after 9. So let's wrap up the show. That was a fun show. We got about 10 people still watching. So thanks for hanging out with us, guys. That's a fun night. We had some good questions. We always appreciate you guys tuning in and hanging out with us. Chris and Trish, thanks for hanging out and spending your hour with me tonight.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Thanks. See you soon, and appreciate you all out there. Keep the tips coming in.
We'll see you guys next Wednesday, and we'll tackle your questions again. Thanks for being part of the community, guys. Till next time.